I like to break it down, and just to start with, Dustin, I like the point you talk about on causality. And for us as practicing CIOs or agilists, we always believe that for every cause there's an effect, right? And so OKRs definitely are a powerful tool, that one can apply to unlock growth, unlock progress, and obviously discover new potentials, regardless of the business that you are operating in. And that's what many people call a business transformation. How do we, turn the ship around for your business, or how do you play bigger in a certain direction that you have decided to look at? I mean, clearly, you will see things or improvements in your performance, and so how well are you able to do more with less? How much, when it comes to your resources is available to you? How much are you able to get out of those small resources or big resources? I think you talk about waste a lot, and so even from the point of view of waste, also, how efficient can we be? And I remember one of my partners saying to me that, hey, look, no matter what product you have, no matter what service you provide, the copycats are going to come after you, right? And so when they show up, how can you be competitive in itself? So it's important that as you think around your strategies to adapt to the changing market conditions. Obviously, market conditions will never be the same. And we gave the instances of the COVID. We are talking about the war in some parts of the world, maybe Russia, Ukraine, Houthis, rebels, and all of those, right? So things would constantly change. And then another thing that constantly changes also is the demands from our clients, the demands from our customers. Those things are never a constant, right? So the role of OKRs definitely, once they are implemented, help us, and I'm happy that Bastin, you talked about that as well, help us to focus, number one, on our priorities. And once we are focused that, hey, look, this is what we want to do, which is to move our business from point A to point B. We want to get new clients. We want to get into new regions. I mean, today, Angela and Co are in the Middle East, but what does it mean if they want to get into Africa? Or Bastin is in South Africa. What does it mean to, have a business here on the south side, on the west, I beg your pardon, or going into the east, right? At the end of the day, also, when you're setting up these OKRs, also, and Bastin, in your slide, I saw that you had HR there, you had a compliance. So regardless of what team that you belong to within the organization, is really around fostering a certain culture of accountability. So who does what? How do they do it? And again, when do they do it? And that brings me to the next point around transparency. So at the end of the day, also, or across the entire organization, every one of us is aware that this is what we are looking at. Yes, I hear a point on KPIs, and how every one of us knows that ideally my temperature or your temperature should be around the 37 point, maybe what, 1 or 2. If it goes beyond that, then it means there's something wrong with you, right? So again, having done all of this over time, and doing over and over again, do we have time to become better? Can we improve upon whatever it is that we are doing? So clearly, I'm big on OKRs, and definitely they're a powerful tool that will drive change across the organization, and also help us to attain some desired outcomes as well. Um, because I work in a bank, I just want to use the example of a new bank, which is to say, how can we transform a new bank, which is a digital first bank that's looking at, disrupting or traditional banking. Today, traditional banking is such that, you go to a branch, it's brick and mortar. The service journeys in the branch, you can approach a teller to say, hey, look, I want to debit my account, I want a checkbook, I want to transfer money to Angela or to William or Daniel, whoever, wherever they are, right? But a new bank gives you all of that on your phone in itself, to say, hey, look, you can do everything from the comfort of your home, such that you don't have to leave wherever. And so I use the example of a new bank to say, hey, look, how can we apply an OKR for one, its operations, definitely, and also to deliver exceptional customer experiences. And I like the example again that Bastin talked about, that in certain geographies, the loading time for a page is maybe what, something microseconds, X microseconds. Can we improve upon that from a user experience point of view or client experience point of view, to ensure that we our clients are happy, they stick with us. And for this new bank, we say that the overall objective, or if you want, um, vision, is to be Africa's finest go-to neobank, right? But again, nobody sets up a business, or nobody sets up an entity to say, look, I want to break even or I want to make losses. I think it's also important that you realize that OKRs are there to help us increase revenue, and that's essentially the case for this new bank, that example that I put up. So yes, I think OKRs have been defined clearly, cause and effect. So the cause really is what the objective are, or the objective is, and then the effect really is the key result, right? And from an agile point of view, again, look at this as a framework that can help you, to scale your business, to help it grow, to become a beautiful garden that you want, such that the colors are there, it's fresh, it's looking green and warm, and all of that anytime you walk in. And green and warm in this sense is because of the garden. But if you look at it from a typical business point of view, your staff are engaged, you are making money, people are happy, there are new ideas coming in, and all of those are some of the things that you can measure, or can be the fallout, if you want, from an OKR point of view. I try to go back a little to say, look, when it comes to implementing an OKR, what are some of the things that you do? And clearly, I'm sure we all know this, and it will not be out of syllable to say, number one, first of all, you define clearly what your objectives are. And I like the fact that, look, you have got to be ambitious. Sometimes a lot of the thing we found about ourselves is we like to sell ourselves short. So how can we set some ambitious objectives to be able to align with our business goals and a vision? So the vision that I said earlier was to become Africa's finest go-to neobank, right? So what objectives could we set along those lines? So that's number one. I think it's also okay to identify what the key results are. So you want to measure, and it's good, also good to measure, because what does not get measured does not get done. You get it. Sometimes we just say, hey, look, I want to be able to get 5 clients, or just to get clients comfortably. But if you don't put a number or a metric or some percentages or percentiles around those, how will you be able to measure progress? So I think once you're able to identify the key results and plant or define, if you want those measurable results, then you can indicate progress as you get along. I think 3, 4, 5 really is around cascading the OKRs, and OKR cascading here, from experience, we've observed that, hey, you've got to let everyone else, be aware about what is OKRs, because if the top is aware, only the top gets to play with it. If the middle alone is aware, they get to play with it. Or if the bottom is aware, they get to play with it. If neither is aware, then forget about it, right? So it's also one of the challenges that we probably will look at when it comes to implementing OKRs, or getting them, known across the entire organization. That piece around communication and ensuring alignment, from the top, to the bottom is really key. But for some of us, we like to go the unconventional, right, which is to do it from a bottom-up approach, right? Just to ensure that you have people at the bottom who are familiar with these OKRs, and then they cascade it up to the top. So if you like, it could be a two-way street, as much as possible. When it comes to implementation, also, I think Bastian talked about measuring progress, right? There's no way you can get into an OKR conversation without measuring progress. Then you are probably just wasting, or is another avenue for waste in itself. Then once a while, also, you've got to do what we call a retrospective, or do a review and learn at the end of each cycle, right? And I like the slides that Bastian put up to say, look, you can even project to the next quarter, or even go back to see how you can learn clearly from your failures or your successes. I mentioned continuous improvement from the beginning also, right? So from an iteration point of view, as you get along with every cycle or every incremental, as you move forward, you've got to look out for how you want to improve as well. So again, scaling up the new bank example that I gave. Yes, so all of the teams now are aligned. We know that yes, we have X amount in investment, maybe $1 million in investment towards the growth of the objectives that we have. How do we ensure that we are utilizing that $1 million, right? And when it comes to the fine details in that OKR, we can plug in say 1 million and say we are giving $200,000 dollars or $20,000, I beg your pardon, at a rate for a certain tenor. And at the end of the day, this is how much it's going to fetch for us as a business. And that brings me to the next point on revenue impact, that you can drive growth and also expand to new markets. I figure that I could say this for free also, that I think new banks are something that's going to start coming up. And so it's something that, or it's a business type that people need to start looking into, regardless of where you are, so Middle East, South Africa, wherever. And you have to break into new market areas, right? Because there's going to be a demand for all of those as much as possible. There's no way that we cannot talk about agility in itself, right? And OKRs also help entities, and it just goes beyond the new bank to be able to quickly adapt, and respond to the market change, right? So with all of the things that are happening around us right now, for example, if we said we wanted to make 100 million at the end of the year, given all the market conditions, the headwinds, maybe attrition within an organization and all of those, right? How do we adapt, or how do we come back to say, hey, look, we want to pivot to a particular area? Or for example, our clients now are asking for small ticket loans or small ticket, business requests. How then do we pivot to be able to respond to their needs in those ways? Without a shadow of a doubt, clearly also, if you want to scale up your OKR, again, you need to collaborate. You cannot just say that OKR is for our friends who are sitting in finance, or it's for our friends who are in HR, or it's for our colleagues who are in the C-suite executive room, right? You've got to collaborate across the entire teams, right? And so that's what we talk about, cross-functional teams, just to ensure that for every single initiative that we put out there, we are able to, if you want, innovate, so that we can respond and ensure that the OKR that we set for ourselves, again, cause and effect, is happening in itself. I think from a benefit point of view, I talked about, and really is really not around things around focus and alignment, right? It's around chaos and disorder. For any organization that is looking to get matured or be matured in whatever it is that they are doing, if OKRs are absent, you are bound to set yourself up for some chaos or disorder. Yes, I know that you have your plans, you have your strategy on where you want to go, right? But clearly, I think OKRs help us to take out the disorder within a certain or any organization that does not have it, right? So clearly, it gives us focus on where we are headed. Again, I talked about specificity already, and so specific objectives. So everyone else is aligned within the team, and yes, we are aligned also, but it also gives us another level of enhanced alignment, just to show that yes, for every team, or if we say from a neobank point of view that I talked about, that we wanted to be Africa's finest go-to neobank, how do we ensure that our OKRs are aligned, to that tag, or to that niche, or to that marketing phrase, that we are the go-to Africa, go-to finest go-to neobank in Africa. I think also from a benefits point of view, it also gives room for accountability. You understand? I know that Angela is accountable for this region. I know that William is accountable for that region, or he's accountable for sales. He's accountable for the people development. Bastin is good with ensuring that from an operations point of view, or an operations perspective, things are working. There are no hurdles in the way, and so once you are able to set out an OKR, it gives people room to be accountable for A, B, C, or D, depending on how you define. And I like the question that someone asked earlier around what's the measure. The measure really is success, right? And clearly you want to also define what success looks like. So what success looks like for me, in the neobank example that we give, is at the end of the day, We don't want to see any chaos. Then also we can talk about the revenue impact. Yes, at the end of the day, we want to see that we have an extra $200,000 or $2 million out of the investment, or the return on investment, or tangible equity that we set for ourselves from that 10 million that we put out. So clearly, by focusing on these four areas: improved focus, alignment being enhanced, accountability in itself also, and then scaling and seeing revenue, you should be able to see um, from the top or even the bottom, that these are some of the impacts or benefits that you get from applying OKR. And again, it doesn't matter whether you are in technology, or you're in banking and finance, or you are in oil and gas. Regardless of where you find yourself, if you embark on that 2 day offsite that Bastin was talking about, you would definitely come up with what it is that you want your key results to look like, or what your objective will look like. I think for another example also, again, from an IT infrastructure point of view, today there's a lot of emerging technology around us. Yeah, we're talking about chat GPTs and AI, cloud computing, right? So take this new bank again, for example, who says that their objective is to enhance their IT infrastructure. So for them, so the objective, which is the cause, is to enhance the IT infrastructure, right? So the effect really is, and they put out three effects, and for the purpose of example, I put out three effects, right? So effects number one really is to implement a cloud-based, storage system that improves data accessibility and reduce reliance on our physical service. And I know, for example, and sometimes I tell my teams in the office, I say, hey, look, you're going to buy a server that is almost the equivalent of a car, maybe what, $25,000, $10,000. Do you know what that means, right? But today that we are going onto the cloud, you know that once you reduce that reliance on those physical servers, those are cost saves for you that you can plow back into the business. I think also from a customer experience point of view, also your data is quickly as accessible. And I go back to the example of Bastin saying that, look, you can access a certain page, or it refreshes in a very short time. Another effect also is you also want to ensure that the server uptimes are around, yeah, for example, close to 100%. Yes, it's a machine, and there are things it could fail, right? But again, 99.9%. I think it's also important. Let me say that, I reiterate that you've got to put in some of these values. You've got to put things that you can measure. So if you are measuring your uptime and it's not up to 99.9%, then it means that you are falling short, and there's a lot more, or there's a few things that you could do to ensure that you scale up, or you get it up to that level. I think for the other part also, a reduced average response time for IT support requests to less than 1 hour. So again, from an incident management point of view, how can you relate this to say, hey, look, when things happen, for example, in West Africa, sometime last week or so, you'd have heard about the subsea, fiber cable cuts that disrupted the whole internet, across sub-Saharan Africa, all the way to Nigeria, I think Portugal, and all of that. So how did we respond to some of those things, right? And if you have an incident, how does your OKR measure to say, look, we have set for ourselves 60 minutes to be able to bounce back and to restore services? I can tell you for free that many organizations who were impacted did not have an incident management, response time within an hour. Right. So doesn't mean that they didn't have an OKR to say that when some of these things happen, or one of these mishap happens, we have a redundancy in place to be able to respond real quick to that. So that's one side of an example that we can apply as an IT function within a new bank, right? I think also because many of us come from Agile, and I know William and Daniel are quite familiar with this as well, when it comes to the development process or trying to roll out a new application, and many of us are involved in that on a day-to-day basis. How do we implement an Agile development methodology to be able to improve on the collaboration, get people around the table, and become more efficient? I think, again, another thing or tip that I can share with you is, as you begin to mature in your Agile journey, regardless of what organization you belong to, you have got to start embracing these OKRs, because they help you sustain and they help you scale, right? So that's one tip I thought I should just throw in. Another key result again here is you want to reduce, your time to market, or we call it speed to value for new features by 20%. Ensure that you release new products. So look at, for example, how Apple and some of the other applications are constantly, releasing new features in that manner. Can we apply a similar mindset, to say, look, and you can imagine what an Apple or Google, or if you want Amazon, their OKRs will look like. And I'm sure maybe offline we can go and find that and share around the table, such that we can learn from that. So again, don't forget, it's important to put some measuring criteria. Is it what is a 5% or a 10% X percentage? You have got to find a way to measure. And that one also, to that question that was raised earlier, could be a very good definition for success for you, by a very good example. I think last but not the least, really for the sake of time, is also that you want to minimize bugs and improve on the quality of the software. Today we call it a world of applications. Many of us have God knows how many applications on our phones, right? So there's literally an application for everything. How do you ensure that the application that you are bringing out is not just one application that crosses or meets a certain checklist, and you say, okay, I've just deployed. But when it comes to quality, even from a cyber point of view, your application gets a certain rating. People are not able to attack it, in that regard. So that's a sample OKR that you could get within an IT function that I thought that I could share with you. I also threw this in around transforming that same neobank, right? And if you wanted to enhance your customer experience, again, I just talked about the mobile app and getting new innovation or innovative features, and also improve your customer support, ensuring timely assistance for clients. Again, from an incident management point of view, these are two key objectives that we have set for ourselves, right? And from a more relatable example, again, what key results do you want to achieve? Going back to the point that Bastin talked about, you're away for 2 days. Are you just going to stay 2 days having fun and all of those? By the end of the day, come up with something that you can measure, something, some metric that you can track to say, look, we want to increase our client satisfaction by 35%. Even though we are improving our app and user experience. But again, there are these beautiful ladies and nice guys from in our contact center who are right there on hand, to help any client who's going through any challenge. You could also introduce things around the AIs, the chatbots of the world, right? And those are things that you can also deploy. And these things, help you, they keep you in check. You understand, such that you are not wasting resources. You are holding yourself accountable. And there's a last slide that I have that is a very powerful, quote that I share with you, and I'm just going to round up very soon. Again, reduce customer support response time. Yes, the clients that we have today, they are constantly changing. They demand more X than Y from all of us, right? So how do we ensure that from a support time point of view, we are almost always there for them? And by the way, if you recall, I think it was in Singapore not too long ago where the regulator had slapped some fines on some banks because the applications were down and clients could not, if you want, have access to the funds. So what does that mean from an OKR point of view? Those things are, let me use the word, they keep you in line. They keep you in check to say, hey, look, you cannot, can you imagine paying a $1 million as regulatory fine? Yes, maybe your bank may be rich to pay the fine, but when it comes to the reputational damage, I beg your pardon, how are you going to explain to shareholders and all of the other people on the streets to say, hey, look, we got fined? I mean, what are you doing there that you are getting fined, right? So I think that's also another thing that you got to look out for. I think I cannot wrap up, Angie, without talking about, again, benefits from a revenue growth and impact point of view. That yes, these are frameworks that you can use, and I think Bastin talked about alignment, right? And from an ideation to implementation point of view also, and maybe this is out of syllabus, but again, it's important that you remember that you need to set the purpose for which you are doing that activity or setting up that OKR or objective. That's one. And then also look at how everyone else aligns to that vision. everyone else aligns to that mission, right? So you're looking at purpose, you're looking at alignment, and then I heard Bastin talk about context. So in what context can we apply all of these things? So those are things that are really important. Could it be a context of revenue? Could it be the context of impact? So what our social or corporate social responsibilities could be a context of ensuring that we are the best in the market and no one else is able to copy us. So those are some of the things that would typically come up when you're setting up your OKR, and it helps you to be able um, to set up a great OKR. Let me finish off by saying that, look, and I just like that part, right? That says that OKRs are not just goals, but a promise to ourselves to aim higher. Look, every business has the capability. They have what it takes to become big. They have what it takes to grow. You understand? And I think that OKRs, or I believe clearly, strongly, that OKRs are a way to ensure that we can we can promise ourselves that we want to aim higher. So if you are in an entity or you are near a business, and I hear conversations around startups, right? And that's one of the mistakes that many of us who are engaged in startups make. You say, hey, look, I just want to be in this startup. But think about promising yourself that you can aim higher. The fact that you can aim higher gives you, if you want, room or a tool as in an OKR to say, look, I can use this tool, I can use this framework to be able to grow beyond where I find myself today. So today I'm in 2 countries, I could get into 5, 10, and maybe all of Africa. So yes, it's possible if you believe it is, but OKRs are those things that can help you attain all of these things. Maybe I just take a pause at this point.